We are just like a small candle in a very dark room. What we want is not our allies sacrifice for us. We just want our allies to share the win for us.
Hello and welcome to Perspectives with Nilo, a regular podcast that brings you news and views from around the world. If this is your first time checking out our podcast, you might also enjoy some of our past episodes, which you can find on our blog site at pwnilo.com or by searching for Perspectives with Nilo on your favourite podcast app. In this episode, I'm chatting with Taipei City Councillor Miao Poya. Councillor Miao is a member of Taiwan's Social Democratic Party and was first elected in 2018. She is one of 13 councillors representing the Da'an Wenshan district of Taipei with an electorate of over 400,000 people. When first elected at the age of 31, she was one of Taiwan's first openly lesbian council members. She advocates for protection of workers' rights, care of children and the elderly, and Taiwanese sovereignty and independence. I sat down with her on May 15th last to talk about the upcoming Taiwan presidential election, the difficulties of engaging with authoritarian regimes, the impact of the Russian invasion of Ukraine on Taiwan public opinion, and how her constituents perceive China's unrelenting grey warfare attacks against Taiwan. Councillor Miao, thank you very much for taking the time to do this interview, and you're very welcome to Perspectives with Nilo.
Hi, and thank you very much for caring about Taiwan, because I know that maybe the Western world is not very familiar to Indo-Pacific region and Taiwan, but I am always happy to have an opportunity to introduce my homeland to the world.
So I think that's a very good point to start on, because in Ireland and many Western countries, we usually only hear about Taiwan in the news after a high-profile visit like Nancy Pelosi last August, or after an event like President Tsai's visit to meet Speaker McCarthy in California. Then Western media will give attention to the CCP's response, like the live-fire military drills, maneuvers, blockades, and so on that the PLA conduct around Taiwan. But the CCP are conducting military activity around Taiwan on a daily basis, I notice. Like on one day alone last week, I saw that Taiwan's Ministry of National Defense Twitter account said that there were 32 PLA aircraft and 4 PLA Navy vessels detected around Taiwan. And we've also seen that the PLA are using drones now to monitor what's going on. And also I hear that the PRC Coast Guard are saying they're talking about inspecting vessels in the Taiwan Strait. It seems like a very aggressive and intrusive behavior by the CCP. And my question to you is, how do people who elected you, your constituents in your district, how do they feel about this? What do they say about this?
Actually, Taiwan is in the front line of Chinese invasion for over 74 years after the World War II. And so people in Taiwan actually get used to the very provocative actions by Chinese government, and but getting used to it doesn't mean that we are very welcome such a provocative action. In fact, we are doing our best to prepare for the maybe the dictators are very unpredictable, and maybe someday they will do the decision to invade Taiwan. So we are trying to do the best preparation for the incoming invasion. So people in my district are very, we are just hoping that our government is very pragmatic, and we are trying to make more friends, allies of the world. So as you mentioned, Nancy Pelosi visit Taiwan, or President Tsai visit other foreign countries are very, very common and usual for every democracy over the world, that we make friends and we welcome our friends. So China is the only provocative country in the region, and I believe that the only thing that we must do is not anxious or angry. The only one thing we have to do is prepare.
But the Chinese government and their mouthpieces frequently they blame the US as the sole aggressor in the Taiwan Strait. What do you think of that?
Uh, Taiwan is a good partner for many countries. Like we are the one of the biggest trade partner of the U.S. So it's very natural that U.S. are trying to make friends with us, right? And we are very good trade partner with the EU also. So of course with Ireland, that our ICT industry and our chip, the TSMC chips are provided to every. I believe that every single country all over the world. So I don't know why the Chinese government sees that we make friends as a very provocative action, because it is very natural action for every country in the world.
And recently, again, the Chinese Communist Party, just to continue on kind of my previous question, as I mentioned, they've started using drones around the island. In fact, Taiwan News website has said that the PLA flew a long-range armed drone around the island on April 27th, another one on May 2nd, and that no political party or leader in Taiwan has expressed alarm. That seems, for outsiders, that seems very strange, that there's somebody threatening you, but nobody says anything.
China has sent their aircrafts and drones to harass Taiwan for over a decade. It started, I believe, it started in 2000, maybe 2010. After 2010, the Chinese government has done that for all of these years. So I know that we understand that they are trying to use, I call it great conflict. A tactic to Taiwan is that they did not shoot a bullet, they did not fire, but they sent the aircrafts or ships, also ships, to harass us. And the purpose is that they want to provoke us and trying to make us trying to make a reason, to create the reason that Taiwan is to be blamed. So I think Taiwan is trying to be a peacemaker, not a troublemaker. So we are committed to protect the peace and prosperity of the region. So we are not going to do anything provocative to China or to any other country.
So, like you say, Taiwan is a peacemaker, but the CCP and their behavior is very much troublemaking behavior. Usually when people make trouble, like as an ordinary citizen, there's a consequence. They are fined, or they go to jail, or they lose some privileges. But my question here is, what are the consequences for China and that keep doing this bad behavior? There doesn't seem to be a consequence, is there?
Yeah, that is one of the most important topics that we have to have a consensus with our allies. Just like Taiwan and U.S., we have a very long time consensus that Taiwan is not going to create any trouble, and U.S. provides some kind of security guarantee for us. But as the Xi Jinping, the Chinese president, got into his third term and his ambitions got bigger and bigger, and he's been more and more provocative, maybe we should have a new tactic to deal with the situation. For example, we are not now. I believe our government is discussed with the U.S. government, maybe the strategic ambiguity, maybe it should transform to strategic clearance, right? And for example, the EU, last August, the EU Parliament has a resolution talked about the situation in Taiwan Strait, and we hope that the EU can provide a little bit more security guarantee in this region, so that China will feel that they have to bear a consequence. As you mentioned, bear a consequence is very important for the dictator to make them think twice before they invade any country. And I believe that last February, before Putin invade Ukraine, maybe he wrongfully thought that he will not have to bear any consequence, so he did a very wrong action, the wrong invasion, and so we should take that lesson. Make Chinese government aware that they have to take the consequences, so that maybe every day they will feel that it is not a good day to invade Taiwan.
I noticed recently also Japan's President Kishida says that Taiwan's security is a global issue, and he said that G7 nations are united in terms of the island, and despite Macron's comments. Do you think the momentum is building a little from your neighbouring countries and from other allies in terms of that, what you just said, in terms of protecting Taiwan?
I think our trade partners all over the world has aware that Taiwan's importance of the supply chain. So if any invasion that Chinese has implied to Taiwan, it will hurt the world economy more badly than Ukraine war, because Taiwan has a more important contribution to the ICT industry, ICT supply chain. So and besides that, Taiwan is in a very crucial location in South China Sea, and over than 50% of commercial ships are going around the sea around Taiwan. So if the war breaks out, if China invades Taiwan, the shipment, the economy will be hurt very badly. So I wish that maybe the US and the EU can give more collaboration. I would say that collaboration with us, because there's a old saying in Mandarin that 预防胜于治疗 is the how to say it's better to prepare, and the precaution is better than procure. So I think that the most important job and the most important goal for us is to prevent the war. It's not to we are trying to win the war. Of course, if China invades us, we will fight for our homeland to the last minute, but the best option is to prevent the war happens.
I guess the CCP are maybe also looking at an alternative way of getting control of Taiwan. And we read about they're imposing sanctions on Taiwan companies, they're blocking Taiwan exports, they're poaching Taiwan's diplomatic allies. How successful do you think are they being with these other kind of tactics?
I think the soft tactics is the goal of the soft tactics is to influence Taiwan's public opinion, because we are a democracy and we have election almost every year. So I think the CCP might have to want to use the weakness of an open society, just like a hybrid warfare, the information warfare, disinformation, misinformation. And so the goal is very clear that they want to interfere the election, just like the Russian interfered the elections in Europe and in the US. So I think the public and the government are also aware of these kind of tactics Chinese are using against us. So we are trying to introduce new law, to implement new law, and trying to get the foreign interfere outside of Taiwan's mainstream media, because China is trying to buy our media and trying to make some disinformation tactic to support the candidates that they prefer. So yeah.
I spoke to some Ukrainian people here in Taiwan recently, and they were very impressed by Taiwan's generosity and how Taiwan has supported Ukraine with the various donations since the Russian invasion. How do you think the Russian war in Ukraine has opened the eyes of Taiwanese people, or affected Taiwan people's attitude or perception of what the CCP are trying to do?
I think the fighting spirits of Ukraine people has encouraged Taiwanese people because in a very long time, I believe that over decades, the China government has a propaganda that if they invade Taiwan, Taiwan will lose within a week, and there's no chance for Taiwanese to win, etc. like that, blah blah blah. But after Ukraine war, the fighting spirits are it is literally every night in Taiwan's TV. People can watch the news of Ukraine every day over a year, and the fighting spirits of Ukraine people has break down the propaganda of Russian, and that makes Taiwanese people has more confident that maybe we can believe that we can resist, and with the help of our allies, we can win if China invades us. And so, and on the other hand, the economic sanctions by the Western world to Russian, it shows the new tactic of how can we support each other if China has made some the military invasion to any other country. So that broadens our imagination that how democracies can unite together through military ways and also through economical ways.
China, though, is proposing a peace plan now for Ukraine. We saw Xi Jinping called President Zelensky recently to discuss peace and so on. Do you think China will be a successful peace broker in this conflict?
China is very successful being a double tactic player in history. And so maybe Xi Jinping would say that he's pursuing peace, but I think the point is under what condition. If Chinese government is offer a peace agreement between Russian and Ukraine under the condition that Ukraine has give up some of their territories, and it is very unfair, and actually China is helping Russia, right? So I know that China is trying to use Ukraine war as a leverage to the Western world and trying to blackmail the Europe, to blackmail US, and China, I believe that China will use Ukraine crisis to get their best benefits. And so maybe we should look at what did Chinese government actually do instead of what did they say, because I don't know how much you're familiar with the tactic of Chinese Communist Party, but Taiwanese people are very, very familiar with Chinese Communist Party, that they will say one thing and do the other. So just focus on what they actually do.
Taiwan, though, is a very successful democracy. In fact, it scores about the same level as Ireland in the World Freedom Index. It scores higher than the US and the UK. And even though it's still a very relatively young democracy. And as we've been discussing, Taiwan is on the front line when it comes to defending democracy. I've read that you have cautioned about over-reliance on authoritarian regimes. Can you tell me a little bit more about what you mean about that?
I believe that Taiwan is a very, very unique example of political science, because we have never seen such a very young democracy. We just abolished the martial law just before 35 years ago, but within the 35 years we have just some achievement, as you mentioned. And it is very rare and unique, but also China is our neighbor. Actually, and we are the neighbor of one of the biggest dictatorship of the world, and I don't know how to say, fortunately or unfortunately, that Taiwan and mainland is using Mandarin as our languages. So the influence of the dictatorship are very easy to have an impact in Taiwan society. So maybe I would say it is an experiment. How much can solidarity do to protect or to guard the very unique democracy in Indo-Pacific region? And of course, we are trying our best. But if without the help of our allies, without help of U.S., Japan, or Europe, I don't know how far can we go, because you know we are just like a small candle in a very dark room, right? And we're trying to burn ourselves just for lighting the room. Yeah. So what we want is not our allies sacrifice for us. We just want our allies to share the win for us, and we will continue doing what we are doing now. And but I believe that if Taiwan is safe, then the Indo-Pacific is safe, and if the Indo-Pacific region is safe, the world is safe. But otherwise, if something happens to Taiwan, maybe the war will go to the next world war. I don't know. Yeah.
What would you say to people in Western countries like Ireland who may not be very familiar with authoritarian regimes? We don't have much experience with them. In Ireland's case, people might say, Ireland is a small, neutral country. We're far away from China. Why would they want to hurt us? And so, what advice would you give? Obviously, Ireland would like to trade with China because they're a big market, a big economy. But we don't think they would want to hurt us because we're a small country, neutral, far away. What would you say to people in Ireland about that?
Actually, I know Ireland and Taiwan are very far away, but we share the same value. We have a common value of democracy, human rights, rule of law, and so I think that if China take over Taiwan, it's not just China take over a very important military base in Western Pacific. It also means that the democracies are weaker than dictatorship, and if China take over Taiwan, it will encourage every dictatorship all over the world. If China take over Taiwan, it will encourage Russia, it will encourage Putin, and it will make Putin has more confidence to invade Europe. And it would hurt the economy all over the world. So if China take over Taiwan, maybe the inflation will get worse, much more worse than now, and maybe the EU have to compromise more to Russia, and it would affect the freedom and democracy of Ireland, of course. So I think we are very far away in geographic way, but we are bounding very tightly in ideology, and we embrace common values. So if we want to survive, we have to protect all. And if one of us has been break down by the dictatorship, maybe all of us will get hurt. Yes.
Some EU leaders are advocating de-risking and diversification, not decoupling from authoritarian regimes like China. Do you have any particular view on how to approach or how Western countries can engage or continue to engage or distance from the likes of China?
I think maybe we should start thinking about a new model of economical collaboration, because in last 3 decades the Western world rely on Chinese supply chain very much. So right now it is difficult to disattach with China, and it is like Europe has some difficulty to disattach with Russia because the gas, So maybe we can prepare from now that we can move our factories to Southeastern Asia instead of China, and maybe we can have more trade deal with Southeastern Asia country, including Taiwan. For example, like I know that the EU Parliament has made a resolution last August, and it mentioned the BIA, the bilateral investment agreement with Taiwan. And I think it is a very good way to ensure that the chip supply of EU is safe if we have a BIA, right? So maybe we can have more substantial relationship with each other. Because I know the formal diplomatic relationship is kind of more difficult, but substantial relationships is kind of a little bit easier way to strengthen our tie with each other.
So back to Taiwan politics, then for maybe the final question. So Taiwan has a presidential election coming up in 2024. I noticed that former KMT President Ma Ying-jeou recently returned from a trip to China in March, and one of the statements he made was that the future is a choice between peace and war. And just to expand a little for our Western listeners on that, what he really means by that is that a vote for the KMT, which is Taiwan's political party who've been historically pro-unification with China, is a vote for peace, and a vote for maybe the incumbent DPP, the Democratic Progressive Party, is a vote for war. What do you think of this statement, and how do you interpret it?
I think the choice of peace and war is purely propaganda for the KMT's campaign, because as we all know that there are only one country which is provocative, it is China. So we don't have a button of peace or war. Only Xi Jinping has the choice of peace or war is the choice of Xi Jinping. It's not the choice of Taiwan. The choice of Taiwan is a choice between we protect our own democracy or we surrender to dictatorship. If we prepare more we prepare, that the possibility of war is less. So I don't think that we should follow the propaganda, because the choice between peace or war is not our choice. The only one choice we have to make is that we have to determine that we want to protect the democracy, not the democracy of Taiwan, not only the democracy of Taiwan, but also the democracy of the world.
I know the last presidential election was very much influenced by what happened in Hong Kong, and people in Taiwan could see very much, this is what can happen. Do you think this election is more challenging from that perspective, or a little bit more blurry? How would you compare?
Campaigning is always very challenging, as I am a politician, and so I have go through 3 campaigns in my career, and it is always very challenging. So I think that, of course, that China will want to frame the election as that if Taiwanese people didn't elect the people China preferred, and then China will raise the conflict, will raise the tension, but it is a purely blackmail, and I believe that Taiwanese people are not like to be blackmailed. We don't want to be blackmailed. So I think the challenge is that the government, the ruling party, DPP now, how do they frame their story, and how do they have the narrative make the people understand how can we prepare to protect our country. We don't want to provoke war. We want to, it is very simple tactic. deterrence. We want to deter China from invade Taiwan. So it is a competition between two different narratives, and our job is to try our best to dialogue, to have more dialogue, to have more person-to-person contact, to make the people understand what we are doing now.
Okay. All right. Well, Councillor Miao, thank you very much for chatting with us. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, and I hope that we can have more substantial relationship between Taiwan and Ireland.
My sincere thanks to Taipei City Councillor Miao Poya for joining us on Perspectives with Nilo. You can find out more about Councillor Miao on our blog site at pwnilo.com, where we've linked some additional references for you to dive deeper. And don't forget, you can also follow Perspectives with Nilo on Spotify, SoundCloud, and most podcast apps, as well as on Instagram and Twitter. And we'd really appreciate a like or a follow if you enjoy our content. Well, that's where we leave it for the moment. Until the next time, thank you for listening. From Taipei, Taiwan, 再见.